very delicate thing, transmitting and communicating ancient knowledge or new knowledge with our doctors, because there's a tremendous vulnerability as a patient, even when the patient has done their homework and the doctor doesn't have time to be current or has missed something like a large part of the profession. And she was well-intentioned. And the truth is, most of them, in my experience, well-intentioned, good people, they're doing the best job that they know how, are not going to take the time or not willing to take the time to read a book from somebody, they don't know, on something that's been around for years and years and years, and everybody does it. I'm sure you can appreciate that.
Well, sure. This book is 230 pages, and it's all medically edited, but it's written in layman's terms, so everybody can understand this. This is a manual, just like if you bought a Mercedes or a Cadillac or anything else. They got specs for the mechanic to fix the thing, but the medical people don't have this knowledge. The reason they don't have it is because there's nobody alive, actually, because 1940, you have to be pretty old right now if you were practicing medicine to say, well, I think this is the knowledge that we lost, and this is what we've got to reinstate. So that's my job, and that's why I took so many years, since 1974, all through the medical libraries and all. But the way that started out was, it was from a man who was 90 years old that gave me the knowledge of the missing link from the Pasteur Institute. So I inherited all of the knowledge that he had accumulated from Europe. I was the one that was the candidate, he said, when he handed it to me. You're the candidate.
What was his name?
Mr. Fritz. He was in California, in Pacific Palisades, had a health food store for 50 years. So he knew the whole historic perspective he knew about. So with that knowledge, the foundation of disease, degenerative disease from toxic bacteria byproducts, I was able to go to medical libraries and study what they had to offer. And there's nothing, believe me, if there was, we'd know about it. I'm the only one on the planet that has this knowledge because he was the only one that had it, and they gave it to me. Now, maybe there's still some out there somewhere, but nobody's going to talk about it because of the connotation of the subject matter. But we're dying because we're eliminating in ignorance this subject, and it's very easy to find out how to fix the colon so it won't cause you to die of all of the symptom complexes from heart disease all the way through. Now, if a person doesn't want to use the kit at home, there's an alternative.
What kit are you talking about?
The Webster implant technique that I brought from the clinic into making it available for people to buy at the 800 number and use at home. They can reestablish the bacteria. Everything is in the kit to do that at home. It's very simple. It takes a couple of days, and you don't have to keep doing it, going through all these phony cleansing routines. That's all outdated. That's all came about. All of these herbal laxatives, all this misinformation you talked about is here because this knowledge that's in this book is not available to the public and the medical people. Now, there's a way to go about this. Your mother could have taken Flora away. The FDA handbook of non-prescription drugs states that you do not have to take acidophilus to stimulate the growth of acidophilus that may be latent in your colon. If she had one good acidophilus bacteria after the antibiotics, she could take 2 to 3 to 4 tablespoons of whey, which tastes great. Use it like powdered milk if you want to. It's a slow absorption factor, it's called scientifically. When you take it orally, it goes down through the small intestine, the stomach. There's no bacteria to be killed, but it ends up at the cecum. And there's where the culture begins. That's what Meshnikov, the Pasteur Institute, and all said. This is the beginning of the end of the human race. Right here. They took an appendix that a person had appendicitis. They drew out the poison and they jammed it into a guinea pig. He was dead in 3 minutes. This is critical stuff. I hope the people are out there listening and have a chance to call the 800 number and follow up on this.
Yes, well, we're going to actually have call-ins in just a few minutes, but I have to ask you a question. You're speaking about Flora whey.
Right.
And you and I live in a universe now where people are just beginning to hear about whey protein. Now, you are not at this juncture speaking of whey protein.
Yeah.
You are speaking of whey.
The whole whey that comes in... well, it's the water on yogurt, actually.
Well, nobody can find it.
Well, you can on the 800 number. We've been having it go out for the last 7 to 8 years.
Is this human grade whey? What kind of whey is it?
Right. It's processed, air dried. All the nutrients, electrolytes, vitamin B complex, everything that's in milk is fermented in the cheese making process. And then instead of just flat drying it like they do with powdered milk and cheap whey that you find maybe in a health food store, if the person asks long enough, they can get some animal grade whey. But this is USDA approved for human use. But there's never been any promotion. No one knows about what it is. So it's very difficult for the public to figure the thing out. But I'll tell you, once they figure it out, they keep reordering the whey, because that's the thing that keeps the good bacteria alive and well in their colon, and they feel the energy pick up, and they don't have to go to and getting treated for these symptom complexes. There's no more toxins.
But see, let me just, on a just pure base level, most of us energetically, I would bet you, if we took a poll, think and accept the fact that in the colon there's going to be bad stuff because of, quote, what it does. You know, you're like talking about, you know, practically the bowels of the body, right?
Right.
So people expect for there to be bad bacteria, and that's where it hangs out. I don't think that the public knows that this organ is not only an elimination organ, a big elimination organ, but it's an organ of digestion, which you write about in the book. Mm-hmm. What does the digestion part come in? I don't understand that.
Well, the ferment, the colon becomes a putrefactive chamber, 5 feet long, 1.5 inches, 2 inches in diameter, if it's alkali pH. The whole thing's based on acid and alkali in the colon. So when we're born, we have a 6 pH. 7 is neutral. Now, if we're maintaining this 6 pH, the bacteria that are spores, they're enteric coated, they're in little capsules, they can get through the hydrochloric acid, and those are the ones that get into the appendix eventually. And if it's alkali at the source, it spreads throughout 5 feet of colon, and it ends up just in a putrefactive, bad odor. The stool sinks instead of floating, so you don't have to go to a doctor. When you have an elimination, if your stool has a bad odor, you've got a putrefactive bacteria that's taken over your body. And that means alkalinity is when you die, your body turns to alkali, and that's what starts decomposition. And that's where the bad odor is, and that's why you find people in third world countries with masks on and air breathers, because everything smells so bad, because the body is putrefying. This is what's going on right now that's causing the cancer and the whole thing with Katie Couric. My God, I don't know what to do about it.
Let me ask you something. Most of us have bad odor when we eliminate.
That's because
and
we've all been shot to hell with antibiotics and no information.
That may be, but are you literally saying that if we take this whey and we clean out the colon, that this is going to change?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me ask you something. What I'd like to do is open up the lines for calls. The call-in number for its rainmaking time is 1-877-625-3724. Let's take it from the top, everybody. 1-877-625-3724. Call us now and address your questions to David Webster. And the other thing is, I want to say to audiences listening on the internet and around the world, in the first show that we produced, we brought you a solution called Primary Water, in which we introduced to you the fact that there is a universe of available pure water that is here for humanity that has nothing to do with rainfall. And even though that was broadcast, I don't think most people really got what we talked about. What we talked about was a solution to end the water fights in the world, to end the droughts in the world. What we told you with Bill Cox on the first show was that there is an available universe of water that is above the Earth's magma that has nothing to do with rainfall. And that means that countries do not have to go thirsty. People do not have to die of thirst, of dehydration, and the privatization of water doesn't have to happen because there's no shortage of water. because we are looking in a different location. We are focusing in a different location to make something that was considered a